All right, primacy of existence. Let's just do this thing. I was going to upload a more clear and concise scripted video on this subject, but last night I watched Ozzy's video on properly basic beliefs, and I come to realize I just don't have the educational capital to pull off a video like that. Ozzy does a great job, and I think he's a real asset to the discussion here on YouTube. So what do I have to offer? Well, I think I am a fairly intelligent guy, and I'm a blue-collar guy, so hopefully I can relate to people on that level and explain things in a way that the common person or everyday guy can sort of understand. And so with that, let's just dive in. I've alluded to in the past couple of videos the fact that I've come to realize that the primacy of existence is an erroneous answer to the presuppositional apologetic. Moreover, it's actually unnecessary, and I think even worse, it's counterproductive to answering the apologetic. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially, the primacy of existence is not supplying what the apologist is demanding from you, a justification for your reasoning. Why? Well, it's a reasoned position. So you haven't bypassed reasoning. To posit anything like existence exists, I think therefore I am, the primacy of existence, hasn't satisfied that requirement because these are all reasoned positions. And in fact, I don't think there's a way to justify your reasoning without somehow appealing to or utilizing your reasoning. Ultimately, I think it's unnecessary. Most of us are pretty confident in our epistemology generally, and it's only when backed into the corner by this somewhat aggressive version of the apologetic that we start to feel the need to flail around and come up with some sort of an answer. Ultimately, it's counterproductive. I think any counter-apologetic that doesn't focus on the real fly in the ointment for the apologist is counterproductive because it allows them to stand on a foundation that they've only defined into existence for themselves and only sort of assert exists. So you might need to ask them the question, well, okay, how do you know what you know? And they might give you an answer that would somehow encapsulate the God that they know exists and his revealed word through Scripture. Oh, okay. So how did you read and comprehend Scripture? Did you not use your cognitive faculties and your reasoning? Well, of course they have. And they have no way around the same problem that you're subject to, that they can't somehow justify their reasoning without utilizing or appealing to their reasoning. They're going to have to argue in a circle as well. And if you point this out to them, they may slap some sort of a label on it. They might call it virtuous. That gives them no traction whatsoever. And so I think this is why people tend to get upset when we watch a video like the one with negation of P and the three theists on the Matthew 4:19 channel, as they strip him down epistemologically and then get real combative and dismissive of him. We know something's wrong even if we don't really know exactly what. And of course, that is the what. They're standing on a foundation that they've only asserted for themselves, but they haven't provided any more justification for it than you. And this is why I feel like the apologetic as it's pursued on YouTube is quite disingenuous. I have no problem with someone saying, listen, I believe that my belief set can better account for knowledge, truth, beauty, virtue, and morality than yours. And then we are free to compare belief sets and agree to disagree probably. But when someone says, only my worldview can account for knowledge and yours can't, and then they proceed to strip you down epistemologically and dismiss you to the scrap heap of irrelevance, meanwhile standing on a foundation that they've only asserted and defined for themselves, providing no further justification than what they've demanded from you, to me that's dishonest. They tack on, of course, a lot of bravado as well. Words like unassailable and videos with guns going off. Bring your argument. I'll bring the presuppositional apologetic. And this is just, I think some of that's actually unfortunate because I think they paint themselves into a corner with that. Once you talk about something being unassailable, you've kind of got to almost defend it to the death. But this all feels very, very disingenuous, very dishonest to me. When ultimately, I think if you look at it, you'll recognize the presuppositional apologetic is nothing more than a sheep in wolf's clothing. They haven't provided the justification they're demanding from you. They've got no business and no right to reduce you to being dismissed in the way that they were dismissing negation of P on this recent video. I'll link that one below as well. I'll link Ozzy's down below as well. They made great mileage out of the fact that negation of P essentially admitted that he had no way of validating that he was not living in some sort of a solipsistic reality. Great traction out of that. Oh, they're very, very, very impassioned about that. They have no way out of the same problem. And I think the sooner we realize this and stop positing all these different counter-apologetics and just keep pointing. You just keep pointing to the fly in the ointment. You just keep reminding them that they have no further justification. We might actually be able to actually have a real discussion at that point if they can recognize and admit that this apologetic of theirs is no silver bullet. It's not a proof of God. And of course, too, it doesn't help when we keep providing all these different counter-apologetics. It gives them the ability to say, wow, the precept argument is so complex. Look at all these videos. And we're even being told it's so complex that we can't even argue it properly. Well, this is hogwash, right? They've made a lot of mileage out of that aggressive nature and the bravado of the apologetic and the fact that people get confused because quite generally most people don't think a lot about their epistemology. And they capitalize on this. For instance, they'll use definitions of knowledge and justification that may be contentious, that philosophers have never really agreed upon for all of mankind. They'll supply those definitions and demand that you account for your belief set according to their definitions, and not really realizing possibly that those are contentious issues in the first place. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Hopefully this has been at least somewhat helpful in defining where I am on the primacy of existence, the presuppositional argument, the paper tiger that is the apologetic. And we'll see how the discussion goes in the comments section. If I'm going to make any more videos on the subject, I apologize for having taken so long, but I've actually really enjoyed the discussion. So thanks everyone very much for watching.